Fresh meat.
If you're watching this, then I want to congratulate you on making it another year. Was it easy? No. In fact, these two memes sum up the whole experience quite well. But if you are here, you survived. You got hit and you got back up. And like the great Rocky once said,
"The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it."
So we're glad to have you and, as always, appreciate the feeling of community and support. Remember, we are all in this together. You, me,
them, everybody. Everybody.
Before we get started, let's go over some quick housekeeping rules. Lists, by their very nature, are divisive. Even if you can agree on the content, where something lands can undo a lot of goodwill by a perceived slight. So my friends, all I ask is that you focus less on where things land and on what is actually here. The chance of missing something is high. It just is what it is. And here's the deal, I did my best, but I'm sure some flicks slipped through the cracks. Some movies I enjoyed didn't make the list, while others felt fine? Just fine. Weird year aside, we had some gems, so let's get down to brass tacks and jump into number 10. Anne, played by Barbara Crampton, lives a quaint existence as a loyal wife to the local minister Jacob. The details are scarce in the relationship's history, except that Anne went through a rough time in her 30s, causing her and Jacob to grow close and eventually marry. The passion and magic are long gone when we meet them, with Anne stuck in an endless routine of being a bored housewife, until she reconnects with her ex-boyfriend over some local business plans. After a passionate kiss, followed by immediate regret, she gets bitten by a vampire. Jacob's wife puts Barbara Crampton front and center, where she's always belonged. Like Rocky, she goes the distance and doesn't disappoint. We get a story with a good message, mixed with intriguing vampire lore, and a bit of dark wit throughout. Jacob's wife is a blood-soaked good time that gives Crampton the role of her career. Brothers Stone and Skull Manson are wrestling heels and bad guys, who lost everything after their fame and egos got them in trouble. And this eventually forced them back into the indie circuit, where we catch up with them in the present day. Now, much older and working for chump change, the Manson brothers have a chance at a decent payday by doing a midnight Halloween cage match. When a strange illness, or a virus, turns everyone into zombies, the brothers must work together and kick ass if they hope to make it out alive. The Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre is a glorious and bloody main eventer. Chris Margettis and Mike Carey are the heart and soul of this flick, and I found myself fully engaged with these characters to a point where I would watch an entire series just based on them. Chris rocks it out as a charismatic ringleader, while Mike plays the simple and sweet-natured Chicagoan flawlessly.
Come on, man. I told you I was gonna get your money. You just gotta help me out and stop being such a stiff prick with all this Irish mob bullshit, okay?
Oh, that's that deformed halfback from Notre Dame. I love that guy.
That's Quasimodo, Professor, and he never played football.
The zombie angle may be somewhat past its prime, but director Max Martini wisely leans into the world of wrestling to give it a bit of fresh air. The Manson Brothers Midnight Zombie Massacre is something that put a smile on my stupid face and kept it there the entire runtime. So fill up your rum with ice, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the match.
This may save your life one day. Don't you ever marry no woman who's stupid enough to believe that a big old postulating wart is an extra dick.
Set in an exclusive all-girls boarding school, populated by mean girls, tight social cliques, and some pretty dickish behavior, Séance tells the story of a student who killed herself and, as the legend goes, haunts the very school. Teens being teens, the main clique decides to Bloody Mary their way into a ghost encounter, only for them to accidentally cause the death of one of their own, bringing in a new, vengeful ghost to haunt the academy. Enter Camille, played by Suki Waterhouse, taking the newly vacant spot and immediately butting heads with the leading clique. Séance is a genre bender, and though it may use many safe horror tropes, writer and director Simon Barrett's skill keeps everything somewhat fresh and on point. I couldn't guess exactly where things were going, and this ended up playing against my expectations. This is a ghost revenge story, yet it's uniquely framed as a slasher. Séance is atmospheric and dreamlike, a stylish thriller that subverts expectations the right way, while also delivering on the promises made. Okay, I'm sure this is going to piss some people off, but here we go. The year 2021 has been kind to Zack Snyder, and the guy deserves it. After the shit show that was Justice League 2017, having the Snyder Cut actually get released, while also receiving universal praise as the superior version, is gratifying. Army of the Dead is a popcorn flick that is clearly in love with the flicks of the late 80s, early 90s, but filtered through a modern lens. Now, I should say this, there are a few minor issues. The inclusion of Tig Notaro is more seamless than it should have been, and credit should be given, but she's totally miscast. And, I'll be honest, this baby does follow Aliens a bit too close for comfort. But Army of the Dead is Zack Snyder at his most confident and relaxed. The action is big, the sets are bigger, and he lets loose while having the time of his life. Army of the Dead is a sun-soaked bloodbath, and an absolute blast. Between Blade Runner 2049 and this, Batista could be the next Schwarzenegger or Stallone. Like I said before, zombies are a bit played out, but Snyder's wider scope and action sensibilities work really well here. Fix yourself a strong drink, I notice a thing, pop on Netflix, turn off the head noise, and give this a chance. This is one where, to get the full experience, the sweet spot of total surprise, you need to walk into this knowing as little as possible. So here's the deal, I'm going to keep this brief, but understand one thing. Malignant is James Wan having carte blanche after the billion-dollar success of Aquaman, and basically making his own trauma-inspired giallo slasher/Matrix hybrid. Yep, that is real. It's a simple story, really. Madison Mitchell, played by Annabelle Wallace, is a mother-to-be who loses her unborn baby due to an abusive husband, and somehow becomes psychically linked to a killer at large. Malignant swings for the fences in every way possible. Paying homage to every schlocky 90s straight-to-DVD entry, this reminds me when Raoul Duke took too much, and I found myself asking the same thing. Now, I was sober, but maybe I don't know, accidentally ate a bag of edibles.
You took too much, man. You took too much.
I don't know. Malignant is so fucking weird and bizarre. It is a trip worth experiencing. Sun opens on a rainy night as pregnant Laura, played by Andy Matichik, runs from a group of men in her beat-up automobile. Once there's enough distance between them, she pulls off to the side of the road and gives birth. We time jump, and now her kiddo David, played by Luke David Blum, is around 8 years old. No mention what happened in the past, and everyone seems happy and healthy. While checking up on David one night, Laura is startled to see a group of people surrounding her kid. Now the police show up and find no evidence of foul play, or that anyone is even there. Now David has to what looks to be flesh-eating bacteria covering his body, and the doctors can't figure out what's wrong. With a relatively small cast, Sun relies on a few to bring the story home. Andy Matichik nails it as the desperate mother whose only goal is to keep her kids safe, no matter what it takes. There's a vulnerability with Laura, and we're not quite sure what's going on. Dealing with PTSD, childhood trauma, and repressed memories, Sun hints at more while playing it straight for the first chunk, only for it to take a right turn and delve right into the genre. It's a road trip of fear and guilt that works because of Andy Matichik's soulful performance and the consistent sense of dread. Now, Sun isn't going to change the genre, and it does tell a somewhat familiar story, yet still finds a dark and menacing way to get you invested. Maud is the sweet yet susceptible type that doesn't quite have the confidence or street smarts to navigate life's complexities. I ain't saying she's destined for failure or a hopeless fool, but the kind of person that's more than likely to get raked over the coals we call life. We start at her lowest point, trying to save a flatlining patient, only to inflict more damage. This incident would haunt even the most even-tempered soul, but it fucked up Maud bad. Though a religious film that delves into the psyche of a true believer, it's never once felt disingenuous or even remotely cynical about the religion it was exploring. Saint Maud is more of the thought of religion, skewed through Maud's perception. She doesn't even know what she believes, as her version of God is a giant cockroach. Yeah, not quite the biblical interpretation. It seems to come in the form of intense orgasms. Probably how I would want them too, if I'm being honest. Saint Maud excels with cinematography, direction, score, and of course acting. This is a black hole of an experience that pulls you down with it and expels any hope or redemption early on. A young girl who has found an identity in 60s culture heads to London to attend a fashion design school. Renting a room once used by an aspiring singer from that era, the movie starts to blend both of these girls' lives in a terrifying way. This was another one that caught me by surprise. You see, I enjoy Edgar Wright, and like most of you, adore the Three Flavors trilogy. But for some reason, I had my doubts about Last Night in Soho. I mean, if you think about it, Baby Driver was, at least to me, his most serious, but still had a somewhat pop aesthetic and joyfulness to it. But with Soho, he goes straight thriller and horror. And, well,
I was wrong.
we still get his snare drum type pacing and inventive directing. And Soho is right at his most proficient. And when used in a thriller, it shows that he can be a big contender in the community. I would have never thought I would be here saying that Edgar Wright is one of the best horror movies of 2021. Acting-wise, Mackenzie's Eloise Turner leads the show. And though I'm not too familiar with Mackenzie's work, she absolutely owns this. And of course, Anna Taylor-Joy rocks it as well, and together make for a dark and twisted reflection on an era that is presented normally with such a glossy, nostalgic view. Set in a dying mining town in Oregon, Julia, played by Kerry Russell, is a newly hired teacher who has come home after the passing of her abusive dick of a father. And the only issue is there's something in the woods, and it's hungry. Based on the short story The Quiet Boy, Antlers is a movie that puts innocent folk in the path of an unstoppable monster. While the people of this small Oregon town have been dealing with a different kind of monster, a dying economy and the addiction caused by it. Antlers is a dark, scenic tale that puts its atmosphere first, while still respecting and developing the creature at hand. Now, unlike some recent affairs, this didn't take the easy route and push the horror elements back in favor of telling a drama first, which can work on its own end, but let's be honest, sometimes I want a monster. Antlers balances both. The human struggle with Lucas Weaver, a scene-stealing Jeremy T. Thomas, struggling to keep his deteriorating family whole, while also keeping the creature at bay. There's always been something about the Northwest that has always unsettled me, and Antlers uses its location to perfection. Again, story beat wise, this isn't something you haven't seen before, but conjures up enough dread. With a solid look and great acting, Antlers ended up being one of the bigger surprises for me of the year. Oxygen follows Elizabeth Hansen, played by Melanie Laurent, who awakens inside a cryogenic chamber with depleting oxygen and no memory of how or why she is there. Now, Melanie Laurent caught my attention with her badass performance in Inglourious Bastards, but Oxygen is her show and her show alone. The level of talent needed to keep the audience engaged in a tiny setting while cycling through the range of emotions one would go through in a situation like this is damn near an Olympian task. Lucky for us, Laurent gives a career best performance and nails the primal fear and the human spirit all in around 90 minutes. Aja brings his distinct visual style to a more intimate tale and fucking nails it.
It's a rare time in your lives, fellas. Appreciate it. The older you get, the fewer tight relationships you have. It's inevitable. Friends get married, friends move away. Hell, some of them even die. Enjoy it while you got it. Drink up.
We know where we're going, but we don't know where we've been. And we know what we're knowing, but we can't say what we've seen. And we're not little children, and we know what we want, and the future is certain. Give us time to work it out.